Okay, hello, welcome to the Monday night Big Book study. We are going over chapter 2, and we're going to start on page 19, the first real paragraph. This is not an AA meeting. We're here to learn specific facts, history, and context for the text Alcoholics Anonymous, first published in 1939. If you have any questions, please email us at thumperbigbook@gmail.com. We went over what the other suggested books and materials are for the Big Book study at the beginning. It's not required, but we strongly recommend that you purchase or borrow the following books and materials for our study to get the most out of the experience. The Anonymous Press Study Edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, Pass It On, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, Varieties of Religious Experiences by William James, the only other book mentioned in your Big Book, a dedicated notebook or notepad, a dictionary from 1935, although a modern dictionary will do, and some pens and highlighters. All right, there is a solution. I'm going to start this particular study on page 19. This is an ongoing Big Book study. There will be chunks in 45-minute to 1-hour increments on this channel. This happens to be where we left off on Monday night and what I'm going to do next in the Big Book study. Okay, so none of us makes a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. So we are going to talk about what a vocation is and an avocation. So a vocation is an occupation, profession, or mission, most likely how you earn money. And an avocation is something, an activity taken up in addition to one's work or profession, usually without money. And I'm going to ask you to cross-reference page XIII, that's a 3rd edition reference in your Big Book. It's the first page of the foreword to the 1st edition. And let's see. The end of the 2nd paragraph, it says, we would like it understood that our alcoholic work is an avocation. Okay? So none of us makes a sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel that an elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. Now, what do we celebrate in the meetings when you get a chip or a token? The accumulation of days that are dry, right? An elimination of drinking. Sometimes we might think that that is the most important thing. That's what we celebrate and that's what we look forward to, right? But what does our book say? It says that it's a beginning. Not drinking is just a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. So here we go. Demonstration. Let's talk about what a demonstration is. I've given you some cross-references here. The CR means cross-references. These are pages and paragraphs in the Big Book. So when it says 14.6, that's page 14, the 6th paragraph. And in the Anonymous Press edition, all of those are numbered that way. Page 14, my friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. So what we're talking about here is Ebby and Bill Wilson. Particularly was it imperative to work with others as he had worked with me. Okay, that's very powerful. Page 77, top of the page. When it has a 0, that means that the paragraph is already happening when we get to it. So I'm going to read this whole paragraph. We might prejudice him. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. We lay ourselves open to be branded fanatics or religious bores. We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than our talk of spiritual discoveries. So what is your demonstration? Page 78, first paragraph. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part. It is water over the dam. Page 98, third paragraph. Now the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When your prospect has made such reparation as he can do to his family, and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he is living, he should proceed to put those principles into action at home. That is if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Page 83, second paragraph. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. So those are some prime examples of how to be a demonstration. It is much more important. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. And if you're like me, when you got here, you didn't have much of a spiritual education or anyone demonstrating to you. This is going to be something new that we may not be perfect at, but we must try, right? So all of us, who is the us? All of us. It's not the people we're sitting with in the rooms today. This is the first 100 men and women of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? All of us, the first 100 men and women, excuse me, spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. So what are they talking about here? They're continuing to talk about working with others, and that is the basis of our fellowship, and that is our design for living, and it's our avocation. So in addition to my job, I'm going to spend much of my spare time working with other alcoholics. Okay. If we keep on the way we are going, there is little doubt that much good will result, but the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. Okay, so honestly ask yourself how you are creating an opportunity for another to recover. Remember, only an alcoholic can help another alcoholic, and that alcoholic is you. Someone needs your help right now. How are you creating an opportunity for someone else? And I will just share with you a little personal experience here. When I started seeing in the Big Book study over and over and over again that working with other alcoholics was something I had to do to get better. And I didn't, and honestly, I was afraid to do it. It took me a couple months of prayer, of asking God to remove the fear, Or actually, I didn't believe in God then. I said, dear thing that might be there, but I don't believe you are, right? Because we have to get honest. We have to get honest to have an honest relationship with a higher power. And that was my honest statement at the time was, dear thing that might be there, but I don't believe you are. I can see in the big book that I must work with other alcoholics to recover. My actions show me that I'm not willing to do that, right? And I was afraid. Please remove my fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be. So I had to do that for a couple months before I got the courage. And once I got the courage, right, doesn't mean that fear is gone. It means that I'm going to do it anyway. Fear is present and I'm going to do it anyway. I went fishing for prospects in a stocked pond. In other words, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And I would get up in these meetings when they said, are there any non-AA announcements? I'd raise my hand. I'd say my name and I say, I need to work with other alcoholics in order to recover from alcoholism. Is there anyone here willing to let me take them through a big book study for an hour? I am looking for 3 people to let me work with them for an hour, and I will give you the big book study the same way it was given to me. And I would work with 3 people a week, and if I didn't have my 3 people, then I was going to meetings and I was fishing for prospects. I was approaching the newcomer, I was approaching people, and if I had the opportunity to share at a meeting, I would use that to carry a message, something from the big book. And I really liked either the fear prayer or willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. I would define them as they were taught to me in the big book study. And people would respond to that. You know, it was more attractive, I'd say, than sitting around and talking about my own fears and resentments and complaining about my day, right? So think to yourself, how are you creating an opportunity for another alcoholic to recover? Because only an alcoholic can help another alcoholic. We've concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program from anyone concerned with a drinking problem. Of necessity, there will have to be a discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We are aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. Most of us sense that real tolerance for other people's shortcomings and viewpoints and a respect for their opinions and attitudes which make us more useful to others. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends on perfect meeting attendance. No, actually it doesn't say that. It says our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends on our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. So what does my life depend on exactly? Well, it depends on helping others, not meeting attendance. So from what I've learned so far in this textbook is my sobriety is about God reliance and working with others, and that this is more important than meeting attendance. Meetings are a great space to give of yourself and to find prospects, to do the approaching and welcome the newcomer, but it's important to keep them in perspective. You know, when I got to the program, it was hounded into me that the number one thing I could do was to go to a meeting, right, and share. Call your sponsor, go to a meeting. And turns out that that's good stuff, okay? Like, we can use that. But it's more important to demonstrate these principles in all my affairs. It's more important that I work with other alcoholics. So you may already have asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you are curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize the points as we see them. Okay, so the book's purpose. We're going to cross-reference forward to the first edition, XIII. You will see on that page what it says is that to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the purpose of this book. Let's just get over there real quick. Wasn't ready for that one. Okay. Okay, there's one too many I's in this. All right, it's XIII. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. Now let's go over to page 45, the second paragraph. Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Okay. Doctor's Opinion XXV, third edition. The subject presented in this book seems to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. So paramount importance means, oh my God. Paramount importance means above everything. So Dr. Silkworth considers the subject matter in this book to be above everything for those afflicted with alcoholism. So it's enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. All right, let's keep going to page 20. I am on near the bottom of the page. Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. Okay, so a moderate drinker can take it or leave it alone, right? So think about it like if somebody made you a sandwich and, you know, if there was mustard on it or no mustard on it, who cares, right? It's really not going to take up a lot of your thoughts at all. Then we have the certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, such as ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult or troublesome and may even need medical attention. So the hard drinker, he looks like an alcoholic, okay? But he lacks, which means he does not have the obsession. Remember, a mental obsession is a persistent, reoccurring thought that does not respond to reason. Persistent, reoccurring thought that does not respond to reason. The certain type of hard drinker, can stop with a strong reason. Also, this person is not bodily different, so they don't have the phenomenon of craving. There are hard drinkers in our rooms. These certain type of hard drinkers could have got here on a court card. They could get DUIs. You know, once they get here and they see the fellowship and the sociability and having a room that you can talk to and all of that jazz, you know, it's attractive and people stick around. This person easily gets long-term sobriety without a relapse and can stop with a strong enough reason. However, this person will never understand what it means to suffer from an obsession of the mind coupled with an allergy of the body. And you can kind of, hear it in their share that they allude to control, that they have control. Remember, only an alcoholic can help another alcoholic. So if this person is not in fact a real alcoholic, how are they going to help another alcoholic? All right, but what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. But at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts. Here is the fellow who's been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. Lack means zero. He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. He is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was written by Robert Louis Stevenson, who died of alcoholism. He was an alcoholic and a cocaine addict. And his movie or his story actually describes the cycle of drinking. Might be a fun thing to all watch that movie together. I've often stopped in the Big Book study and watched this movie with everybody taking the study at the time, and it's a lot of fun. Go over the cycle of addiction from the doctor's opinion. It was a great supplement to this time. Okay, so he is seldom mildly intoxicated. He is always more or less insanely drunk. His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature but little. He may be one of the finest fellows in the world, yet let him drink for a day and he frequently becomes disgustingly and even dangerously antisocial. And I have to say that describes me to a T. And the joke is even Mother Teresa would be different after doing an 8-ball. Okay, he has a positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment. Oh my God. So we have some cross references here for that one, which I see didn't make it on the slide, but XXVII from the Doctor's Opinion, 3rd edition, XXVII. Let's just read that cross reference. XXVII. So I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I have had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomena of craving at once became paramount above everything else to all other interests, so the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. All right, Bill Story, page 5, 3rd paragraph. Then I got a promising business opportunity. Stocks were at the low point of 1932, and I somehow formed a group to buy. I was to share generously in the profits. Then I went on a prodigious bender, and that chance vanished. So we'll talk about that more in Bill's story. But we have this crazy thing about getting tight at exactly the wrong moment, particularly when some important decision must be made or engagement kept. He is often perfectly sensible and well-balanced concerning everything except liquor, but in that respect he is incredibly dishonest and selfish. He often possesses special abilities, skills, and aptitudes, has a promising career ahead of him. He uses his gifts to build up a bright outlook for his family and himself, and then pulls the structure down on his head by a senseless series of sprees. He is the fellow who goes to bed so intoxicated he ought to sleep around the clock. Yet early the next morning he searches madly for the bottle he misplaced the night before. If he can afford it, he may have liquor concealed all over his house to be certain no one gets his entire supply away from him to throw down the waste pipe. As matters grow worse, he begins to use a combination of high-powered sedative, don't talk about drugs, and liquor to quiet his nerves so he can go to work. Then comes the day when he simply cannot make it and gets drunk all over again. Perhaps he goes to a doctor who gives him morphine or some sedative on which to taper off. Then he begins to appear in hospitals and sanitariums, recovery homes. Okay, well, there you go. Duplicate slides. We just went over that. I guess it did make in the slides. Those are the cross references that I just read. Okay, when it says no halt going on, it means there was no hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Did you learn that in treatment or anywhere with the halt, right? That doesn't, you know, just because we don't have halt going on doesn't mean that the obsession cannot strike. So why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle with all its attendant suffering and humiliation, why does he take that one drink? Why can't he stay on the water wagon? What has become of the common sense and willpower that he still sometimes displays with other respects or matters? Perhaps there will never be a full answer to these questions. Opinions vary considerably as to why the alcoholic reacts differently from normal people. We are not sure why. Once a certain point is reached, little can be done for him. We cannot answer the riddle. A mental obsession is a persistent, recurring thought that does not respond to reason. Strange mental blank spot. The mind isn't even going to check in with you. The alcoholic mind is not even going to check in with you. Page 42. They had said that though I did raise a defense, it would one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink. Well, just that did happen and more, for what I learned of alcoholism did not occur to me at all. I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those strange mental blank spots. I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. I knew then it was a crushing blow. So this is what it means to have an alcoholic mind. Okay, so let's go. Cross-reference page 13, third paragraph. Okay, I'm going to skip over that. I don't think that's supposed to be there. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol whatever into his system, something happens both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. So check your experience. What is your experience? Do you feel like you are not normal where alcohol is concerned? We have an allergy of the body, the phenomenon of craving, right? The game is rigged. The game is rigged. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. And the mind that is the problem cannot solve the problem. Let's go to page 30, first paragraph. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. So as we go through the rest of this, please start circling fact and start circling mind. Okay,